Hello, my name is Andersen. Welcome to this seminar on opportunities for Georgian researchers and scientists in Horizon Europe. Unfortunately, the welcome by Dr. Miriam Maribishvili from the Agricultural University of Georgia did not get recorded properly, and we will go directly to the presentation by Sean McCarthy from Hyperion on the understanding of the European landscape and an introduction to EU funding. Welcome to the seminar. Welcome to Dr. Sean McCarthy from Hyperion, Ireland. Sean has a lifelong experience with EU funding, participating and coordinating EU projects, and has been a well-recognized trainer for many years on the European funding landscape. So he is an excellent speaker for our first presentation.
An associated country is a country that signs an association agreement. So in other words, Norway participates the same as Ireland and Denmark. So does Israel, Iceland, and there we have Georgia. So Georgia has signed an association agreement. So you're the same as Ireland, Denmark, or Germany, or Italy. So you're perfectly entitled to participate in the program. A third country is a country that's not a member state and not associated. So for example, America, Canada, China, South Africa, United Kingdom at the moment is called a third country. It's not a third world country. It's a very strange European terminology. So the first thing you'll remember is that Georgia has signed an association agreement with the European Union, and here it is. So if you want to read it, it's worth looking at. And for those of you wondering, how did I find this? The official website of the European Union is called Europa.eu. So I did Google Europa.eu, Georgia Agreement Horizon Europe. So when you're looking for anything in Europe, that's the website that you use. So again, here you can see exactly what the agreement is. Now let's go back to the basics. Horizon Europe is the name of the European Union's research and innovation funding program. The previous program was called Horizon 2020, and the previous one was called Framework 7. Now the financial cycle in Europe is 7 years. So every 7 years they launch a new program. There were 16,000 projects funded in Framework 7, 32,000 projects funded in Horizon 2020, and they expect to fund about 40,000 projects in Horizon Europe. So every one of you, this is where you start. If you go into this website and type in mathematics, you will see all the projects that have been funded. If you type in agriculture, cancer, diabetes, renewable energy, whatever word you type in, you get a complete list, and you can see which organizations are winning the funding. You could also type in the word Georgia to see what kind of projects have already been funded. Or you could type in the name of a university and you can see if you're involved in any project. So I think that's the real starting point, and you'll see that coming up on our website. Now, if you're new to this business, when you go onto our course website, the first link you see is something called the EU Funding and Tenders Portal. That is the starting point. So I'm going to show you where to find the information on that. I've made a 3-minute video on each program. It's like what I'm doing at the moment. But if you want to go on this website and you want to hear more about a particular thing, you can listen to the videos on here. Today we have Tiona, who's a national contact point, and maybe sometime during the day, Tiona, it would be good for you to introduce yourselves. So in Georgia, there are people representing the programs. So Tiona represents the Marie Curie program, and I think it would be very important to introduce you. And in every country has a national contact point. But the website I just showed you is this one here, projects already funded in the European program. So there's no password on this website, and you're welcome to link to it and share it with your colleagues. Now, the 27 countries of the European Union, they sit around the table and they identify areas where they like to cooperate. So Denmark has its own research program, Ireland, Germany, France, Italy. But the 27 countries agree to cooperate on research and innovation, and they call that program Horizon Europe. There's another program called InvestEU. You've heard of Erasmus, Digital Europe. In fact, there are about 30 programs in total. But the important message here is that whenever you see a program like Horizon Europe, it is there to address an agreement between the 27 countries. So we need to understand what agreement is between the 27 countries to fund what they're actually funding. And I'd show you that in the following slides. So when you go onto the participant portal, the first thing that comes up is a list of all the programs. And Jan is going to show some examples of this later. You have Digital Europe, you have Erasmus, Social Fund. But the one we're talking about now is called Horizon Europe. So you go onto the link, you click on that link. Now, what do they fund? Now, can you imagine 27 countries sitting around the table saying, yes, we'll put 95 billion euro on the table. Now, what will we do with that money? They said, okay, 25 billion we will use to make Europe a leader in science. So pillar one is all about scientific leadership in mathematics, scientific leader in biotechnology, and so on. So you have ERC, Marie Curie, and research infrastructure. So the whole focus here is about scientific leadership. Now, there's a second pillar. Europe says, the 27 countries said, Europe is facing some major global challenges like climate change, aging society, cleaning the oceans. And Europe would like to be leader in things like artificial intelligence, next generation of batteries. So they said, okay, let's spend 53 billion addressing these challenges and opportunities. So pillar two is about solving problems. And they've divided it into 6 what are called clusters. And the clusters are divided into destination sections and topics. And this is the word that you're looking for. So I'm going to go on a tour of the 6 clusters, and you can see that cluster 6 has to do with food, agriculture, and the environment. Now, pillar 3 is different again. If you look at your table today, on my table, I have about 10 technologies. I'm an electronics engineer. But I always buy the best technology on the market. I don't care where it comes from. There isn't one single piece of European technology on my desk. So Europe is importing these billions and billions of euro of technology. So pillar 3 is about producing companies that become net exporters of technology. So can you see that the difference in thinking behind each one? And I'm going to visit each of those. Now, there's a small program called Widening Participation. This is for Georgia. This is to help researchers from countries like Georgia, Poland, Ukraine, Latvia, Estonia to get more involved in the program. So that's why I'm starting with the widening program. It's about 4% of the overall budget. So there is the structure of Horizon Europe. You'll see many diagrams doing it, but I like this layout because it helps us. It's easy to explain it with a diagram like this. So when you go onto the portal, you click on Horizon Europe. Here you find the calls, what's being funded at this moment. Here you find the results. Now, if you want to work as an evaluator, you put your name inside here. But if you go on here and go down to reference documents, you get a page like this. Now, this is where you find the programs, and this is where you find the proposal forms. So if we click on the work programs, we can see here, Marie Curie, we can see security, digital, and look at this one here, food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture, and the environment. Now, if you open that link, it's 595 pages long. So you can look at the table of contents and identify where exactly you're being funded. Now, those are the basics, but without understanding what I've just shown you, you won't be able to find the information. So I think it's that gives you a little tour of where to find what I'm talking about. Now, you have to learn some language here. That's the structure of the program. These are called bottom-up. Now, bottom-up is political language. It means you are free to submit anything you like. Nobody's stopping you. But you're not free, because you must know the difference between ERC and Marie Curie. And you must know the difference between EIC and ERC. So you're free, but you must understand what kind of project fits in. So for mathematics, in example, Marie Curie and ERC are perfect for you because you're totally free to submit anything you like. Pillar 2 is called top-down. Now, what this means is that if you look at something like health and you read the work program, there's a topic on mental health. So that topic is there to address a specific policy. So when you're submitting a proposal to Pillar 2, you must understand the policies behind the topics. So there's a different approach to Pillar 2 and Pillar 1. Now, then you must understand, do I need to be part of a consortium? So if you're a mathematician, you can submit a proposal on your own to ERC. And you'll see a lot of mathematics funded inside here. In Marie Curie, it's mainly consortia, but Jan will give examples where you can submit a proposal on your own. But you can see that in Horizon Europe, in most cases, you need to be part of a consortium. And we'll explain what that means. So you must understand the structure. Is it bottom up, top down? And do I need to be part of a consortium? Now, I'm going to draw a map. And I'm going to use the base of the map, this famous TRL table that was invented in 1977 by NASA, the American Space Agency, where TRL 1 is fundamental research. TRL 2 and 3 is laboratory-based activities. 4 means we have a prototype ready. And then the focus is on demonstration, trials, and so on. And then up here at TRL 9 means it's ready for application. So now this is not a formal table, but I think it's a nice way of understanding what's the difference between the programs. And you can see here that universities typically live TRL 1 to TRL 5. There's also SRL for social science. Research centers, roughly TRL 3 to TRL 7. And industry and society are more interested in something that can be applied. So if we use that as the base of our map, where do we get funding where we don't need partners? And where must you be part of a consortium? Now, you can see that Pillar 1, it's obviously suited to universities. Pillar 2 is TRL 3 to TRL 7. So that's more for people who are doing really applied research. Whereas Pillar 3 is more about companies or people that are planning to become entrepreneurs. And the other European programs are about addressing specific problems. So what I'm going to do in the next half an hour is I'm going to fill that box, all those boxes. And you can see, oh, I see the ones that suit me, and I see the ones that are not relevant to you. Okay, now let's look at widening participation. Now, this was introduced in Framework 7 because these are the newer member states of the European Union. They're mainly South and Eastern Europe, Bulgaria, Croatia. They represent 25% of the population of Europe, but they only got about 5% of Horizon 2020. So they said, we have to do something special with these countries. It also includes countries like Albania, Armenia, and you can see Georgia is inside here. So this is a special program to help these countries to get more involved in Horizon Europe. So it's fostering participation in Horizon Europe. It's really something that you have to pay special attention to. And I just want to show you the kind of things that they fund. You could have twinning between your agricultural university and an agricultural university in Denmark and Ireland. So people from Georgia go to Ireland and Denmark, and people from Denmark come to visit you. I think that's, and in Georgia, there's a national contact point for this program. So I think it would be good to invite that person to speak to you about the opportunities. Teaming is where, if you're developing, say, a laboratory in your university, and you'd like to model it on something that's in Denmark or Germany, you could have a Danish partner, German partner, Georgia, and it helps design the new laboratory. A chair is if you want to bring a professor from Denmark or Ireland to Georgia, you can pay them the salary of Denmark, but they get the salary of the Danish salary to come to Georgia. Now, Jan will talk about cost actions, which are amazing. Now, there is something new, and I think this is something that you have to keep an eye on. It's called Hop On. This is where projects that are already funded in Horizon Europe can apply for funding to bring a Georgian partner into their project. So this is where Jan Andersen could be quite useful. So if Jan had projects in their university and they get extra money to bring a partner from Georgia. So that's a really, that was only introduced in 2022. So can you see that the whole aim of these, and you can see for the national contact points, there's even something to help you. Now, where do we find this program? It's here to help you participate in all the different programs there. So that's its main purpose. It's not pillar 1, pillar 2, or pillar 3. It's there to help you get involved. So if you go onto this website here that I just showed you, this is where you'll find the work program. And again, I think to see who's the national contact point in Georgia for that, but reading it, you will see the opportunity. So I think that's a really excellent starting point, and the cost actions, as Jan will show you. There's a microphone on there, so Jan, you can turn it off if you want to. Have you got that, Jan? I might have to remute myself. Or you mute all, Jan. I can put myself back on. Yeah, that's what we'll do. So if there's any interruption, Jan, like that, you can mute.
Yes. It's the best way, actually, Jan. You can use it freely, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now let's go on a little tour. Now, ERC, the way you study a program is like this. So let's look at our diagram here. So we can see that ERC is part of pillar 1. It's bottom up, so you're free to submit anything you like. It's dealing with fundamental research. And the whole aim is to make Europe a leader in science. So mathematics people, Professor, this is home territory for you. And I'm not going to go through all the grants. They're on the next slide. There's a starting grant for young researchers up to 7 years from their PhD consolidator. And Professor, you would be called an advanced grant. And in Georgia, there's a national contact point for this program. So no partners, free to submit anything you like. It's like a mini Nobel Prize to win one of these. These are the most prestigious grants in Europe. And again, you submit the proposal on your own.
So we do not need any partners, Professor? No. Okay, thank you.
Just on your own. And I think it would be interesting to see on that website what kind of mathematics projects are they funding. And it's a beautiful program. Really, really beautiful program. Now, I won't talk about Marie Curie, but Marie Curie funds fellowships. Jan will talk about that in the next presentation. But I would like to talk about research infrastructures. Now, this is how this program works. All over Europe, there are laboratories that have been built at national level. Denmark has, take agriculture. I know in Ireland, there's some laboratories for agriculture, Denmark, France, and a call comes out and maybe 10 agricultural laboratories come together and they said, you know, we have a lot of specialist facilities here in our different countries. Let's submit a proposal to the research infrastructure program, and they might win 6 or 7 million euro. And the whole aim is to give access to people like Georgian researchers, so you can access the facility. They will pay your travel, they will pay your accommodation, and they give you free access to the facility. Where can we find that list? Here it is. Now, I think that's a definite starting point, Miriam, for your researchers. That if you want to start networking, cost actions like Jan talks about, but this is an amazing starting point, and you can, and they only get paid when you access their facility. So they're waiting for you to come. So I think, Miriam, for the agricultural university, it would be good to go on there and see what kind of laboratories can we access, and people see the immediate benefit. And you apply to the center in Denmark. You don't apply to the commission. And
definitely, Andersen, definitely. That's what I cut, and that's what I'm catching at the same time now. And I hope that our professors then, after your presentation, they will like actively participate into the discussion. So you will see, and you will be sure that it will be very, very fruitful for our university.
Perfect.
Thank you.
I think that's a good starting one. Now, pillar 2. Let me go back, and I want to show you how to think about pillar 2. So we can see here that pillar 2 is top down. So it's addressing specific challenges. It's divided into 6 clusters, and each cluster is divided into destination sections, topics. And it's there to address real challenges like climate change, food safety, whatever. And what you're looking for is the topic, right? Now, the agricultural cluster is 595 pages, and you're looking for 4 pages. So there's a bit of work in finding the topic. So let's go on a small tour of these clusters, and you need to be part of a consortium. Now, this is cluster 1. It has to do with health. It covers cancer, diabetes, mental health. It also involves developing tools and technologies and digital solutions. So that's medical technologies. And this is a really impressive program for anybody dealing with health aspects. And I think it's about 450 pages long. This is for social scientists and humanities. So the first one has to do with political science, problems with populism and democracy. The second one has to do with cultural issues, and again for Georgia, how to protect the culture. And the third one has to do with things like migration, the migration crisis, welfare state. So again, this is mainly to do with real social and humanities type of activities. I think that's 150 pages long. Now, did you know that in Horizon 2020, there was a project funded called Pandim, just how to identify a pandemic and how to respond to a pandemic. It was before COVID came. It wasn't funded in the health program. It was funded in the security program. So what they're saying here, could you apply any of your expertise to security issues? And a big issue is border security. And Georgia is on the border of the European Union. So, there could be a lot of strategic research doing inside here. Very, very, very broad topic. So it's worth looking at it for just to see, are there anything to do with agriculture in the security programs? Now, this is the most competitive one of all. This has to do with digital technologies. It looks at manufacturing, sensors, artificial intelligence. So this is where all the top IT, information technology research organizations go. So this is an amazing program. Now, this has to do with climate change, which some of you might be related to. Energies, renewable energy, energy efficiency, and mobility is road, rail, aviation, marine, and so on. Now, I think that's over 450 pages long, that report. But the one for the Agricultural University is this one. So you can see here, clean environment and zero pollution, circular economy, food systems. So that's the biggest work program of them all. And you're all wondering, where did he say that I could find this again? So let's go back to the website. You can see here, we went to Horizon Europe, went to how to participate, reference documents, work programs 2024, and there it is. Food, natural. So I think for most of you, what you're going to do, you're going to download that PDF and see what kind of things are they funding within the program. So you can see that Pillar 2 is addressing specific problems. Now, how to join consortia, that's another workshop, but this just shows you what are actually funding. Now, Pillar 3, remember I told you, is about producing innovative companies in Europe. And there's different ones. There's Pathfinder, Accelerator, and EIT. But what I want to focus with you today is EIT. That's a very interesting one for what you are doing. Now, Pillar 3 has a number of programs. Now, EIC Accelerator, can you see? No partners. So that means a company in Georgia, a small company that wants to grow their technology into something big, scaling it up. A small company in Georgia can apply for something like €2 million to take it global, develop a technology that sells on the international market. So if you have an incubator or accelerator in the university, it's a good one. But the one I would like to alert your attention to is Pathfinder. Now, Malchus, as a mathematician, you should have a look at this one here. This is for radical ideas.
Okay, thank you.
This is one where you have an idea that nobody believes in. And you said, if we use mathematics in this problem, I think we could find a solution. And everybody says, no, that couldn't be done. But you know there's something in there. The crazier the idea, the better. You need to be part of a consortium, and you could say, I had this idea of how to do something. So it's to give scientists a little bit of freedom to try out radical ideas. And they see these ideas as kind of a 2040, something way down the road. So it's a very interesting program. It used to be called FET in Horizon 2020. So I think it would be worth looking at projects already funded. And you'll see in the previous website, I have a link so you can look at projects funded. Not too many people recognize that, but I think it's a really exciting program within Horizon Europe. But it's the next one. Now, I think
yes, excuse me, if you send it to Madame Mariam, the links or that programs will be very nice.
Okay, it's
then
on the
Madame,
website.
Yes, she will contact us. Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, Miriam, I think this is another one you have to work on immediately. Now, let me explain EIT. EIT is to develop the next generation of entrepreneurs, right? So what they're funding here is you have a scientist doing food research in your university, and they're just doing pure food science, and they'd like to take a 2-week training program on entrepreneurship. 1 week in Paris, 1 week in Denmark. Okay? And you have something up here called EIT Food. So if you go onto the website I show on the heading there, and you go into EIT Food, you can find training courses. They pay travel, accommodation, and the total thing is free. But the big thing you get from it is networking. You're suddenly going to Denmark, you're going to Ireland, and the scientists are saying, wow, I spent a week in Denmark and a week in Ireland doing this training program, and I met all these other scientists from around Europe, you know, and there's other ones for health, climate, anybody dealing with climate, digital, urban. Now there's another one coming on culture and heritage, but I think for your university, Miriam, EIT Food. So have a look at this link here, go on EIT Food, and then you will see what the opportunities are. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is called third-party funding. Now, let me explain what that term means. Third-party funding is where the European Commission gives funding to a consortium. And you can apply to that consortium for funding. So in other words, you're not applying to the European Commission, the big complex process. You could be applying for €30,000 to do some research. Now, I've made a website for this. It's at the bottom of the link here, FP9 third-party funding. And there are 4 examples. One is called cascade funding. Now, hop-on funding that I described earlier is a bit like that, where you can add to an existing project. But cascade funding, if you go onto this website here and click on cascade funding, you get about, the last time I checked it, there was about 90 projects that were publishing calls to do a small analysis, do a test, try out a piece of software. It's a beautiful starting point, I think, Miriam, for your scientists. And it's not a very complex process. Now, Jan will talk about Marie Curie, and he'll talk about Marie Curie networks. And there's a website called Euraxis, where they publish vacancies. They've won a Marie Curie network funding, and they have a vacancy for a postdoc or a PhD. I've already described access to research infrastructures. That's an example of third-party funding. The consortium get funding, and you can apply to cover your travel and so on. And I also described EIT training, where they've got the funding and they will pay your travel, accommodation, and free traveling. So I think third-party funding is another very, very good place to get started. And if you go onto this website here, it gives a description of each of the programs. So it's not all about the complex process. There's a lot of little things like that. So here we are. So we've Horizon Europe. It's a 7-year program, okay? And every year there's a call. So the first 2 are finished. You can forget about those ones, unless you're going for third-party funding. So you can see here that it's not that you said, oh, I missed the call. There's a call every year. So you could say, I will have a plan for the next 7 years. And then in 2028, they will start a new program, and there's a call every year. So this is an annual event. So you have to say to yourself, what's my plan? First thing you need to do is analyze the funded projects to see what kind of things are being funded, who's getting the funded, build up your networks, and so on. You could say, I'm going to check out Pillar 1, ERC, Marie Curie, accessing infrastructures. I could check out Pillar 2. I won't be a coordinator. Maybe I could be a partner or a third party. Pillar 3, maybe I'll go into EIC Pathfinder. Or maybe I'll join the widening program, and Jan will talk about the cost actions. But there's another option, is to become an evaluator. Best training course you will ever get. And they try to have evaluators from every country. And on the website, the portal, I showed you where you register to become an evaluator. So what I recommend to people, when I'm talking to newcomers, people that are new to this business, I always recommend to start being an evaluator. You actually get paid for it. It's the only evaluation program I know where you actually get paid to evaluate the proposals. And the money comes to your bank account, not the university's bank account, which is a good thing. Jan will talk about cost actions. So that's an excellent starting point for everybody. I recommend that you start as a third party, where you apply to a project that's already funded, or that somebody else is writing the proposal and you're a partner doing a small job. Then the amount of writing, and you don't have to understand the complexity. And I think this is where Jan, you know, his university could be putting in a proposal and they need a partner and they bring you into the project. Accessing research infrastructures, very simple starting point. Jan will talk about the fellowships, perfect for you. And then later on to go to ERC. Everybody talks about the complexity of the process. The complexity is for the coordinator, people who are leading big projects and so on. But you can see there's lots of opportunities. These are like stepping stones into the whole process. So that's my bit finished. So we're a small bit ahead of schedule. I'll take any questions that people might have for me now. We'll have a debate later on. And if anybody wants to follow us on LinkedIn, you can see our QR code or whatever it is there. So maybe, and what I might do now is I'll just show you the website, the course website. I don't have it up here. I'll put the website on that I was showing all day. I will just put it on the chat now, if I can go into Zoom here. So chat here. Where's the chat gone? Yeah, the chat is here.
It's down off the bottom. Yeah.
So I've just put that up on the website. So it's
Yes,
an open website, and you're welcome to do it. So I'm open for any questions before I hand over to Jan. Has anybody got any questions so far?
Oh, dear Sin, it was a really, really, really exciting presentation and very interesting and very wide. And it was consisting from like wide ranges and wide topics. Thanks for that. So our dear participants, please feel free to raise your questions because we are very, very keen on what is your ideas. So yes, the floor is yours, each of you. If somebody have a question, you can raise it now.
Now, in case anybody thinks it was very simple, it took me about 3 years to design that presentation. So it's not something I did overnight. So each slide could have taken a couple of weeks. So it was like watching a Disney movie that you see.
It was visible. It was visible, Sam. Kind of like these presentations, it's not really easy to conduct them and to make them in only 1 or 2 weeks or even in 1 month. It's, well, I felt it that there are like gaining knowledge and experience in it, in the presentations. And thank you for that.
Now, if there's no question, we can hand back to Jan. And I'm going to stay here. So when there's a discussion later or anything, and people might have questions later on in the discussion. So look, maybe Jan, can I hand back to you?
You can. Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you.
But it could maybe be interesting to hear if someone actually had experience with participating in an EU project. No?
I mean, from the university, as far as I know, from our university, I mean, from Agricultural University of Georgia, there were some scientists who really have participated in Horizon 2020. So that's the only thing what I know, only as a like rough information on that. I don't know details, but there are some people who have kind of that experience. Yes.
But maybe your own.
But if you mean, sorry, but if you mean in general, European projects in general, not only Horizon 2020, so for sure in our university we have like several. In my case too, in my example, I can say like, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 projects, like in not only really current year, but in previous years. And also we have scientists here with whom they have also the European projects as well. So kind of that experience, what you mentioned, Sen, that for example, for scientists, it's very important and big challenge to spend 1 week in Ireland and 1 week in France. So we know this practice and it's really nearby to us. And we accept on this, and we think so that this is the right way to exchange our possibilities and expectations and our experiences. So yeah, on that side we have.
I think this might be a good chance for Tiona maybe to talk about the National Contact Point Service within Georgia relating to what I just presented. Maybe if you'd want to say a few words, Tiona.
Yeah, Tiona and dear Jan already mentioned that they will mix their information during Jan's presentation. So they already negotiated on that, and I was very happy. It's very interesting to share your experiences from Georgia, Tiona, as well.
Yes,
so
thank you very much.
Yes, just I want to have one question to you, Sen. Maybe you can say just two or more words regarding EIT. What you raised and underlined, and I catch it that it's really, really fruitful. Maybe will be for the university, for my university. Yes.
EIT is not a program. In fact, EIT is actually an institute with a headquarters in Budapest, and they set up networks called knowledge innovation communities. But the whole idea is to develop the next generation of entrepreneurs. So it's a training program, and it's getting a good reputation. It was trying to find a home or a role in the first few years, but I think it's becoming quite established now. But if you want to build your networks and develop your entrepreneurial skills, it's brilliant, and it's so I think it's worth checking out, especially EIT Food would be the one for your particular university.
Exactly.
My daughter actually went on one of those courses, and she told me all about it. And she said it was amazing. One week in Dublin, and the next week was supposed to be in Stockholm or something, and COVID came. But it was a lot of physical workshops and discussing entrepreneurship and things like this,
And practical things, the most important. Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Now, my dear participants, if you have some question to this Sen, otherwise we can hand it over to Jan and later to Tiona to collaborate then to the presentation. So Jan, please, the floor is yours. Oh, Tiona wants to say something. Yes, please.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Before we start, I would like to once again express that thank you for a brilliant experience. Actually, the more you know, the more experienced you are, the simpler and pleasurable it is to listen to you as a presenter. So thank you for that experience. From what I have observed, I would just like to add that I do believe that you were right when you said that if it is the first time for anybody to do the project, please do it as a partner or as an observer. That would teach you a lot, because what I have observed among Georgian researchers is like the most difficult is the writing part, where specific information goes. We Georgians like to talk a lot. We are more general, like we speak generally, so it is very difficult for us to state specific type of information in specific places in the proposals. So this, technically what I have observed is it is better for you to join someone as a lead and learn from their experience rather than trying the first time all on your own. So yes, this is what we observe on a daily basis. Thank you very much.
Yes, I think it's a great comment,
Thank you.
Jonas. Thank you very much. I think maybe you can say a little bit more about how many NCPs you are and which field you are covering.
Sure. The office, the Georgian office, was created this year, and it represents the head of the office. And then there are divisions according to pillars. So in pillar 1, I represent MSCA. There is an NCP for ERC. I can later on provide the names and contact information for each NCP from my office, as well as website from Georgian office as well. So we have NCP for ERC and MSCA. We don't have an NCP for research infrastructure yet. In pillar 2, and each pillar has a coordinator. So coordinators and NCPs which are under each pillar. So there are NCPs under the second pillar as well. There is also coordinator for third pillar as well as NCPs, and there is a coordinator for widening as well. What's more is that in universities there are regional offices who serve as multipliers of information. So regional offices help gather the audience for info days, and they are really doing a great job in spreading the information, the videos, and the slides we are sending to them as well. And there are also research institutions that are linked to our regular mails, so research institutions directly get information about info days as well. The contact information of every one of us is placed on the website of Georgian Horizon Europe office, and we are available for emails, consulting. We do awareness raising. We also do seminars and trainings, and the office is also planning to do some proposal checking as well. So the first level to address to can be in a regional office in the university, and then Horizon Europe office. If there is no regional office, you can directly come to Horizon Europe, and we work under Rustaveli National Foundation in Georgia. So you can find us through Rustaveli Foundation. Either way, directly come to the office or through Rustaveli Foundation.
Okay, thank you very much. I think you will be able to help me as we go along. Let me see, it's not really clear for me if I'm sharing the presentation mode or the online mode. Can you see it's the presentation mode again?
Yes, it's presentation mode, okay, but yeah, it's not full screen. Now it's full screen, it's okay.
Perfect. Okay, so yes. So yes, let me explain first a little bit about myself. I have a master's degree in computer science and Danish language, and I worked since 1994 with the University of Copenhagen, and then 4 years for the Technical University of Denmark, and since the last 3 years I work with the University of Southern Denmark. I've been initiative taker to a number of networks and activities in Denmark, and started national networks of research support colleagues. It was about getting together, meeting, and discuss what are the problems, what are the barriers, and what can we do to establish a network around how do we solve them, how do we overcome the barriers, how do we learn from each other. So that's very much what I've been involved in over the last many years. And I was an initiative taker to also the Danish Association for Research Managers and Administrators, as well as I was chair for the European Association for Research Managers for a number of years. I was an initiative taker and chair of the Best Prac project, and that was a cost action. And I think it's the most successful cost actions we have ever seen. It was like the only cost action that was extended to 6 years, and had more than 800 members, and is now part of IAMA activities, and you can still get access to all the information in the Best Prac project. In 2022, I received the IAMA Lifetime Achievement Award, but I didn't stop working for IAMA. I didn't stop working for my colleagues in research because of that. So that's also one of the reasons why I'm here, that I want to continue and expand and also share my network and experiences with you. As we already talked about at an early stage, is that the Marie Curie fellowship programs is one of the easiest or most accessible way to come into European funding. It is consisting of a number of sub-programs. So it has a postdoctoral fellowship program. It has a doctoral networks program. It has a co-fund program. And then it's also funding outreach activities in Researchers' Night. So if you have an outreach activity, for example, where the general public can be informed about science, you can actually apply for funding for this activity in this program. And finally, there's the staff exchange program. So this slide is very crowded and there's a lot of information on it, but you can later on you can use this as an overview. What does the program look like and what is the size and so on. But as you can see, the postdoc fellowship program is able to fund more than 1,000 postdoc going in and out or moving across Europe, because it's a mobility program. And even more fellows are supported by the doctoral networks. There's around 150 doctoral networks in Europe with more than 1,500 researchers in it. But here's an overview, and you can see that there's a link to the work program where you can see in more detail what are the expectations and so on. I think Sean mentioned a very, very important thing, that these documents, they can be really, really huge and really, really complicated to read. And that's why we have Tiona to help interpret what does it mean. And Tiona, you just jump in whenever you think it's necessary, and add if there's something special you do in Georgia that you want to emphasize. So the postdoctoral fellowship program is actually one of the reasons why I am here, because I think it could be a good opportunity to establish or expand our network together in fields that are relevant for us together, not only from your side, but also from my home institution. So my university would also be interested in having good candidates from abroad. There are two types of fellowships. One type is a global fellowship, where the fellow is from the host institution is going out for a year or maybe even 2 years of a 3-year program, and then comes back and shares its knowledge with the host institution. But the major program is the European Fellowships program, which is a 2-year postdoc research project, and the core of the evaluation criteria is excellent. So it actually is 50% of the evaluation of the postdoc research fellows are based on excellence. So it's an excellent, it has to be an excellent research project. And then there has to be mobility. And that means that either the fellow moves to another country, or is and sent to another country, or is recruited from another country. And there are some rules about how is this mobility is calculated. So you have to be have been less than 12 months in the country within the last 3 years. So you cannot recruit someone who has been in Germany for 1 year. You cannot recruit someone who has been 2 years abroad and want to bring them back. But if they have been more than 3 years away, you can actually recruit them back to Georgia on this program to perform a research project. An important part of the mobility is also that it's not only about the research project, but it's also to be exposed to different disciplines and to different sectors. So that means that I don't think all, but the major part of all the fellowships that gets awarded, they have some kind of secondment in industry for 3 to 6 months, and this secondment can be in a company, but it can also be in a research organization, or by a research infrastructure, or somewhere else, but just outside of the, what you can say, the closed academic environment. And as Sean already mentioned, it's a bottom-up program, basically it's also an opportunity to recruit new researchers. So you can actually find someone who would be interested in learning more about Georgia and research in Georgia, recruiting them on this fellowship program, and then at the end maybe even have them to stay and be offered a permanent position in the future. It's also a career program, and that means that it's very important that what they learn actually will forward them in their career. That is also why you could think about exporting some of your good postdocs to abroad, and hoping to get them back and reintegrate them in Georgian research, and then Georgia in the long term could benefit from the program and from having expertise on a European scale. So the project is in principle written by the fellow. It's a nice 15 pages application, so it's not like it's not a big 40 pages research proposal, but it's 15 pages, and it has to be done in collaboration with the host institution. So either a researcher going abroad will find a host institution to go to, or if someone is recruited from abroad, you will be the host institution for this fellow. And what we can see from all experience that we have is that the principal investigator, so the mentor or the supervisor of this postdoc, is playing a very, very important role. First of all, of course, to secure the quality of the excellence, to secure the quality of the research, to make sure that it's actually state of the art. And there's also some parts of the application that is about the research environment. So what is the research environment this fellow will actually come and get this skills and career improvement in? So you need to have some plans in place where you actually facilitate the development of this researcher's career. It can be a training program or access to special facilities. It can be maybe a group of researchers within a specific field, but it can also be something very low practical, that you have some, like, let's say, samples or species or environment that can be interesting to do some surveys into. So the fellow does not come out of the blue, so to speak. If the PI and the fellow do not really work out well, then the application is not likely to become excellent. So the PI should use his or her network to find a promising candidate and recruit this person by inviting them and helping them writing this application. And then I have also mentioned here that there should be a secondment either in industry or in a research organization or somewhere else that could add this transsectoral component to the application. So Tiona, you have probably seen there was what did you say? How many applications did you have from?
We have 21 successful. One was under consideration from last year, and I also had an opportunity to work with some the fellows who applied for postdoctoral. From my side, I would once again emphasize that we had two advice that I could give from what I have experienced. One is that you already mentioned that using your acquaintance as a principal investigator before actually having agreed on what you are going to do probably is not a good idea. So not as like simple acquaintances do not work. You really need to agree on what specific areas you are going to research and how. So I have had problems with researchers that well have met some colleagues of theirs from abroad, and when it came to proposal submission, then they couldn't agree on the direction they were going. So probably we recommend them to read more about the research and papers that principal investigators have published and what they are working on more. And then and every principal investigator has well their own way of looking at a problem, and this is what we have observed. And applicability to the industry. As you mentioned, Georgian, currently, like we don't have that much culture of applying the research to the real industry. We are working on it, but still the mindset of researchers is more inward. So the research stays in the research institution or in educational institution. So we always recommend the fellows to think wider out of the box and try to imagine how their research would be applicable, which they need to prove in their proposals as well. So that's what I would like to add here. Thank you.
Thank you, Teona. That's why I think it's really a good start our today's training. And from my side, I really will be happy to like further up and stepping up and to develop our trainings and visions and our meetings as well. And yeah, I'm pretty like totally agree with you on the point that we need more concreteness according to projects and to missions and tasks. That's the main problem to the projects when they are applying, as far as I know. So, and it's kind of an issue of development. So that's why I hope so. We will be on the stage of,
we will get
like,
there.
Yeah, we will get there.
Yes.
And we will like, yeah. We will find and we will do our best. Yeah, thank you. Yes,
okay.
Jan?
Can I comment, Madam Teona? Yes,
Sure,
I agree with you completely because, you know, the connections between Georgian industry and researchers are very weak, you know. We should make it more strong connections. Otherwise, we shall get nowhere. You know, so this is very important for us.
Absolutely agree.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes, we
really
are
great,
on the right
really,
track.
yeah.
Yes.
Really great input. Thank you. And that's also why I think this is an important time to bring this up, because I know that the deadline is in September, the middle of September. I think it's 13th or 14th of September. That means that now you can actually start to reach out to your network, your colleague, and find a good colleague that you can start working with already now. it takes very long time to build this relationship that is sufficient to write an excellent project together. So that's why this meeting here is very important to have before the Christmas holidays, because you need to think and you need to find, oh, I met this young PhD student in Germany, or I met this young fellow who was studying something very interesting. Maybe he would be interested or she would be interested in coming to Georgia, and you can start talking and elaborating on the contact. If you can even manage to set up a meeting where they come and work with you for a while, a week or so, then this can also be an excellent way of coming together and really get a joint understanding of the joint project. And of course, also use all the experience that you already have. So I would say to Tiona, you should gather all your Marie Curie fellows together, let them go out and give presentations in the institutions and explain how it is to be in Georgia.
Experience sharing is very important.
Exactly.
Especially
yes.
when the scholars still have this concept of horizon being unreachable, not for them. So real life examples are the best. Yes.
Yes. And I can tell you that just 3 years ago, when I started thinking about 4 years ago, when I started thinking about working together with Georgia, there was actually absolutely zero Marie Curie. So moving up now to more than 20 is actually really an achievement. So it's a really good path that you have, and you play a very important role in getting it together. Use the networks. Okay, so I'm not going into all the detailed programs, just go into also the doctoral networks simply because they are also a good opportunity to expand the network you already have. It is a program for 10 doctoral students in one program. And it's about developing skills, not only academic skills, but also transferable skills in the same kind of setting. It has to be an international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary environment. And the doctoral networks are a little bit more complicated because, and I come down to it here, it's actually not only about the network itself, but it's also about solving a project that is beneficial for a European challenge. So it can be the lack of, I think, let's say it could be an entrepreneurial spirit, could be one of the challenges that you have. So in the program, you invite young researchers, developing a more entrepreneurial perspective on their science. But it has, at the same time, it has to be on a topic that's important to be solved in Europe. So, for example, it could be on, now we talked about food, so it could be about food safety or food security, could be one of the topics. Already a lot of projects financed on that. What you would like here is that you would like to be in a network of colleagues who, because the application here is much more complicated and much more tricky to write. So until you have been part in a number of doctoral networks, you would have difficulties in setting it up the first time. And there's a very high competition on these doctoral networks, but when you get them, they are highly beneficial. And they can be on any topic. It's bottom up. It has to solve a relevant research problem. It has to develop the careers of the research fellows. It has to be, they have to be exposed to this intersectoral and interdisciplinary environment. It can also take the form of joint doctorates between the partners involved. I can tell you that my University of Southern Denmark, we are just into such a network where we are doing joint doctorates, and don't be a coordinator of such a project, because it is just very, very, very complex and complicated to have all to write a joint doctorate and to agree on a joint doctorate. So you can also have industrial doctorate, where where you do a doctorate together with an industry. They are actually achievable because you can have a much smaller environment. So you can have joint doctorates with 2 to 3, maybe 4 fellows in the doctoral network. I think that when we talk in the next half hour, we will talk a little bit more about networks. I can show you where you can find these networks and where you can set these up, as Sean already mentioned before. Do you have any doctoral network? Do you participate in any doctoral network, Tiona?
We have attempts this year. 2 universities were working on submitting for doctoral networks. The problem they have encountered was that the student researchers were very active, but it was very difficult to find, as you said, the common ground on where they would unite. So basically, we ended up with those individual researchers then shifting to fellowship program rather than waiting to agree on a common topic to research. And I do agree that like without an experience of being in a network, without experience of working together, young doctoral students tend to later on move to their individual interests rather than the group formation. And this was the case. And there was a case when one university wanted to, from one university, they wanted to apply for joint doctorates, but then there is this accreditation procedure, national accreditation procedure, which sets additional criteria for re-accrediting the program once it is a joint program. So I think, and I did propose it to my management as well, that some additional encouragement towards the universities and incentives in terms of accreditation should be thought to encourage program coordinators of PhD programs in universities to be more active in this direction. This is the experience I have had with this several months being as an NCP in doctoral networks direction.
Yeah. I think that's sounds totally recognizable from all the projects I've been in over the years. It's a total common issues that you are pointing at.
I think Teona, you need to like widen your network according to universities because it would be our pleasure. For agricultural university as well. Yes. So please share then like information.
It has been only several months. The office was set up. We were nominated, so we are ready, and we have a program that we will have approved this January. So I would love to include you in the list, and I will contact you individually for info day for your university. I would love to do that.
Yes, thank you very much. Would be very interesting. Yes, Jan?
Yes, and I think if the complexity of the doctoral networks is also that it has to be it's not only have to be a relevant research project, it has also be identified need for skills. And that means that you actually have to document that in this project, you actually addressing a relevant problem that has already been recognized by the commission or by stakeholders in the field, or so you have to find the documentation for why do you need this network of 10 more postdocs in this field or PhDs in this field. And then it has to be everything has to be fitting together in with the cross-disciplinarity, transsectoral activities, mobility, and career development. So it is not very easy to get success, but if you can get a picture or a model in place where you can actually explain this in a nice way, then you can be successful in being a partner, because you will have to be delivering some of these components here, or you can be also a coordinator somewhere in the future if you can get this to be the benefit of Georgia. This would be a really nice thing for you to get this amount of students coming in.
Yes, I think we must be ready for that. I think so.
A holistic approach, more, a larger approach. That is what I have observed. This is what we lack in this direction. Someone with more larger view on how to identify how parts get together in their own place. That's what I have identified.
Setting
up.
Yeah.
That's why I always encourage like program coordinators, the ones that have the power to make decisions and changes. They are the ones that probably should be involved into this direction.
Exactly. Yes. The next deadline is in November. So if you over the spring comes across a network that would be looking into doing something like this, where you think it makes sense and could be relevant, then you know the deadline, and this application, it takes almost a year to prepare. And it's a lot of time, and actually the number of students that you get out of it is 1 to 2 for each partner institution. But I think for Georgia it can be more, up to 3, maybe even 4. But basically it would be a real benefit in the future to look out for these types of opportunities and networks, because they play an extremely important role. Because not only will you be a partner in the project, but you will actually get 10 ambassadors who will go out and talk about Georgia and what they've experienced and what they learned here. And that is why this is so important, these programs, because you will get people with real life experience and real life know-how. So what we haven't talked about, and I think I'll do this now, is that the funding of these programs is actually not that you have to make up a big budget. It's all fixed amounts for the students, for the institutions, for the administration. So you don't have to think 1 minute about the budget. It is automatically calculated, so you don't have to discuss or argue with your partners about the budget or anything. It's fixed amounts, and it's fixed amount for both for the doctoral networks and for the fellows. And actually it's also fixed amount in the next program here, the co-fund program. So the budget part of these excellence grants are really simple. And that's also why they are also very simple to administer. I think it's the most simple program that I have ever come across. Okay, so the co-fund, I just want to mention it here. It's not, I don't think it's relevant at this stage, because it is co-funding of an existing doctoral or a postdoctoral program, where you put in the financing for this program, and then the EU can co-fund this with an additional amount of money. They are very complex. Again, it's not the budget, but it's actually the whole description of the program that is very complex, and it would demand a lot of work also probably on the internal administrative side. So it's not only that the research has to be excellent, it's also the research administration that has to be really excellent. So I don't know if Tone agrees, but I think this is something that we can keep an eye on over the years to come, and see when do we have something where we are ready to do that.
Yes, absolutely. The most difficult part is the evaluation part. So
yeah.
So how are you going to manage what you have achieved? key performance indicators, how you measure them, evaluate it. It's very difficult. Yes, a strong institutional culture of is required here. So yes, I haven't worked with this, but as far as I know, this is a challenge currently for majority of Georgian educational institutions.
I know that the president of Kutaisi International University, former rector of TUM, TUM was partner in several co-fund programs, so they have strong experience in that, and he might want to bring that into to Kutaisi International University as well. I don't know, but we can see in the future how this evolves.
We hope also.
Yes,
it will happen.
It will happen. I think that there's always been strong ties between Germany and Georgia, so it will be interesting to see.
Sure.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. So I think some good beer and some good wine can keep him for some weeks on the spot.
Of course, you are welcome. Come to Georgia. Many different wines. You will
yes.
see.
For sure, it's part of our traditions.
Yes, it is. I know. Yes.
I mean, some more. Yeah.
Okay, so the last project I want to touch upon here is the staff exchange program. And the reason why I will not go into depth is because the deadline for this year is already 28th of February. So it's unrealistic to write an application for the 28th of February. So I'll not go into depth with it, but it's actually a network between staff members. So it's not only for researchers, it can also be for young researchers and for professors and so on, to be in short exchange visits with colleagues in a network. So it can be, a starting point could be existing networks, and then add on some colleagues from abroad where you want to have new contacts. And there you will build collaboration. So that's why it's a really, really good program. But for this year, we're not going to be able to make anything. So you will just have to look out for how these, how we can maybe prepare something for next year that could be interesting, or have a joint interest for you and for us. I have already talked with my own university, and of course we are very keen on also being able to facilitate and set up such a staff exchange program. So it would be nice to see if we can get it to work. It's of course also demanding commitment on both sides, because they are implemented through secondments. So you have to have a plan for what are you going to learn in these short-term secondments. Yes. I think that was more or less it. I think we are actually almost on time. We are on time. Do you have more questions?
Thank you, Jan. I agree with you. We are on time. And still, I want to request to our participants, so please feel free to raise your questions or comments. Once again, thanks to you, Jan, for very, very interesting presentation. Thanks for sharing. It was really, really key issues, what we need now. I mean, our scientists and researchers from the very basic, like on the basic level. It was very important. And let's see, step by step, we can develop that training courses or like workshops, etc. So please, dear participants, you feel free. You can raise your hand and like pose the question.
Okay, we have time at the end also, so we can, if you you can either write them in the chat, or we can take it up in the end. So if something emerges from what we're going into now, then it would be great. Do you have any comments, Sean, at this stage?
No, I think you're the expert on that subject. What I was talking about, like, was the whole picture. I think what you're giving an example are the specifics of deadlines, setting up the networks, and that's where your strength is. Mine is more the overall planning and strategic planning and so on. But no, I enjoyed your presentation. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was also the idea, that we should complement each other a little bit. Okay, so now we go down to the next part of the presentation, which is about the networks. And Sean has already mentioned a number of them. So the first one is the COST program. The COST program is actually the first European research program. And it was originally funded by the national research councils of the European countries. So also beyond the EU, and it's still going beyond EU, the COST program. Now it's majorly financed by the Horizon program, and is part of that, and that is for simplicity, I assume. So the COST program is not a research program as such. So there are no themes or anything that you can apply for projects, but it's a networking program. And what it will finance is the work of a group coming together, meeting each other, discussing a relevant research topic, exploring different aspects and perspectives, coming up with recommendations or new ideas in a field. And then there will be some summer schools or training schools, and an exchange program where a number of fellows can meet for or being in exchange for a shorter period of time. That means from down to 1 week up to 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how the COST action itself want to run its activity. And I think I would like to show you how it works. 1 second, I'll just go down here. I would like to go to the COST web page. And the COST actions, they are actually based on, you can see still see my screen, my web page now. You can see my web page, right? The COST page.
Yes, yes.
Good.
We see it
with
well.
A lot of figures. Good, nice. So so the COST web page, they actually have an overview over all the actions going on, and I can first I can show you a little bit an action that I was involved in myself. The best project, and what you can see here is that if you have the description of, you can find the description of the project on the page, and this is actually the application that you write. And you can see here in the right side, you can see the MOU. The MOU is actually the application you write for the project. So we can see all previously funded project, and you can see the applications for those projects. And that means you can also actually try to digest and find out what type of projects do they fund and for what purpose. And you can also see who is participating in the project. And here you can see all the different countries that has signed up for this action. And then you can see here here we can see the list of who is the active persons in the network from all the different countries in the project. And
the website is not actually showing yet. We see the slide. We see the PowerPoint slide, not the website.
Ah, okay, yeah. I think sorry. I'll go back then. For a second. I'll just go over and share the screen. It's typical that it will. Now it shows my screen.
Yeah, that's better. Yeah,
that's better. Okay, good. Okay, so on the front page, very simple, cost.eu. You get an overview of all the cost actions there, when to apply and how to apply and so on. And as I already mentioned, I was myself part in a cost action called Best Prac. And I think if I just make this apply, you can see here. What I was explaining was that the description of the project was actually the description that we submitted in the application. And the whole application is what you see out here to the right, the memorandum of understanding of the call. And the good thing about this is that you can see all the different MOUs for all the projects that's funded. You can see who participated and who confirmed being part of the project. And you can also see the management structure of the project. So who is in the project.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting. Just please scroll up again just for cross-checking whether Georgia inside.
Georgia, oh, okay, go back to
not,
this is the parties. I think that Georgia is not part of this project.
I mean our Georgia.
No, you're not.
Not from USA. Yes, we are not, yeah.
No,
actually,
you're not.
That's the problem, all the time, that's the problem,
But in this case, the project has ended, so it's not, you cannot join this action, but I can show you.
But for future, just for taking into account, that will be like a difficult thing.
Exactly.
On that way route, but
yes.
For future,
Yes, the good thing here is that if, let's say, we want to find a project actually, here. So let's say we want to have Malkas, would you see if there's anyone in mathematics?
Yes, please repeat your question.
Do you want to see if there are any cost actions in mathematics?
Mathematics here, why not? But if if we cannot originate a project from Georgia, then to seek for other country, it will be difficult. Sometimes there is a need that other partners should originate project. We can only include it in that project, and that's difficult task. If we are allowed to start project from Georgia, that's another question.
Yes.
But yes.
So when a country supports an action, it will have to contribute to the funding of this action. That is how the cost system works. So there can be a priority and maybe some lobbying and policy in place to get acceptance.
Yes, so we cannot solve researchers that problem. Corresponding stuff from Gustavelli Foundation should solve.
Yes.
Perhaps Madame Maria, Madame Teona, and others.
Yes, I think that's a good point. But you can see now, I show you, for example, we have this information coding and biological functions.
Yes, simply I do not say because letters are very small. Just I am listening to you.
Okay.
If you can read, please. I cannot read.
Yes. Okay. So so you can see here's the description of the project and how it was funded.
Yes.
But you can actually see here that you can participate in this activity here on the right side. You can apply to join the action, and you can reach out to your national contact point to see if there are funding for participating in this project from your side. In this case, we can see who has signed up for the program, and I can see that
Yes, if Georgia is
has
involved,
not signed up. No.
Not signed.
No. But Georgia can still sign up. Up to 1 year after the start of the program, you can sign up for a cost action.
We hope.
Yeah. So it's actually possible to join those newly started actions. So what you can see here, this is the network of people behind this application. They're called management committee members. And these management committee members, they are then performing this activity, planning the meetings, and also they probably have a steering committee, and they actually have here. So this is one is from Spain and from Italy, and they have different groups, working groups. And these working groups, they can then have probably training schools and exchange programs and different tasks. Yes, please say something. Someone above you, Tiona. There's two raising their hands.
Michael Assad.
Yes. I want to ask you something.
Yes.
There is in the website, there is no list, no Georgia in the list. So this means that we are not allowed to apply for some projects, right? But anyway,
yes, you are. Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Yes, you are actually allowed to apply. Georgia is member of the COST Association. The problem is if Georgia has supported this action, and if Georgia has not done it yet, it can always do it. It can always approve an action, and then Georgian researchers or Georgian participants can be participating on equal foot with everyone else.
Yes. That's why I'm asking, because our research team members, we already are involved in some European projects like LignoCost, which is funded by Cost Action Project. So last time the meeting was in Estonia, so a few times we are already involved in such kind of meetings, and this is very good opportunity for us to widen our scientific network.
Yes.
So we are involved already.
That's good. So you will also get coverage from the COST program. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. And thank you, Jan. Actually, that was what Michael mentioned. That was what I underlined when I requested to you to scroll up, because it's a little bit like tricky when it's not written Georgia. People think that, oh, it's impossible to apply the project. Maybe this is one of the barriers as well. And maybe in the future, somehow, in some way, maybe it was a solvable problem.
Madam Mariam, it is psychological barrier. And if you create a complete list of all possibilities for Georgian scientists, it will be better, then all scientists will see that. Not separate information.
I mean, yes, Mr. Molchas, but I mean that people, when, for example, for me, when I'm watching and it's not in the list, you are like automatically thinking that it's not for me. It's automatic. According to psychology, it's like that, how it works. This is the fact.
Yes,
and
you
that,
are
for
right.
example, in my case, before my travel to the Norway, to Oslo in Yarma, at the conference, I was participated on the training also, organizing by the Horizon 2020. And in the list. It was the same case. We were not in the list, and I was like registered under Azeri or under anybody else. So I wasn't from Georgia on the like training, and it was not really comfortable. Yeah, that's the point. But according to widening and socializing the network, I totally agree with you. That's like that. Yeah.
Yes, that's needed, widening that network, and all information to put in one site somewhere, to be accessible for all researchers. It's very desirable to do.
Teona?
Yes, if I may add, this is not my direction, but I was invited to a presentation which was held by Ministry of Education and Science of Georgia, and we were presented about the cost. It was a Georgian Belgian professor who is a member of one of the committees, and yes, you can apply for cost actions, as well as there is an office that I know is created as a separate unit which represents the cost. And recently my colleague Professor Lela Mirtsulava, she was several days ago nominated as a member of management committee from Georgia. So I could provide you with contacts of her as well. Yes, and there is a person who is responsible in the ministry for cost actions until it moves as a separate office. I also wrote a name of her here, and I can provide her contacts as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was really, really relevant information, Teona, for everyone, because I know from many countries it can be a barrier, especially if the countries have to choose which activities do they actually support. But even though if there is a priority, it should be possible for those who are working in these fields to be part of this. I think I fell on this, the Grapevine Genomics Encyclopedia. I think it could be relevant for those in your university, Miriam, who's working on genomics of wine. I think that was a very interesting network, of course, run by Italy and Spain. But you can go into and look into that yourself later on. I will go back to my presentation, and now we will run into the same issue as I had before with the screen sharing thing here. And now it's, you see it right? Okay, good. So another big option to find your network is through the Cordis website, and the Cordis website is a database over all EU-funded research and innovation projects, and actually it has adopted all EU-funded programs at all, so we can see all the funding that has been delivered by the European Commission. And what you can see in Cordis, and I can show you, see if we can go over again to show the Cordis website, is that you don't only have the information on the project itself. Cordis. I think we are here somewhere. And you can see my screen now, the web page.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so cordis.europa.eu, and there's a button called Projects and Results. And if you push that button, you will get access to the full database of all funded EU projects. You can see here just some random projects coming up, the latest updated projects. So let's see, it sounds like see if we can find it by framework program. So we can just take this project here, for example, the Human Brain Project. And what you can see here is a description of the project. And this is actually taken directly from the description in the application. So again, like we discussed with before, that this text is actually taken directly out of the application and put into the Cordis web page. That means that you can see what was actually the way that this project presented themselves in the application to the reviewers the first time. So this is the first that the reviewers are reading. And you can see here, you can see there's actually a lot of information about the project. You can see all the partners in the project. And for each of the project partners, you can see who's the institution participating. In the past, you could also see who was the partner, but probably this has been taken out because of GDPR reasons. But in principle, you can find then this company or this person and find out who in this university would be or this institution would be interesting to work with on a specific project. Based on this, so you will have all the names of the coordinator here and how big the project was and so on. So here you can use this as a source of information to find a network within your field, and you can type any type of search terms in, and it's very useful, and you can save it for later. You can download the information short form or long form, so you can actually, you don't have to sit in front of the computer and browse. You can actually download things and then do it offline when you have time to look deeper into it, to see if there are some interesting partners. And here you will be able to find that Georgia, for example, has around 120 EU projects since 1995 in Europe. Most of them are actually small businesses, companies, research organizations, and so on, and not so many universities. It's majorly in agriculture. It's majorly in health sciences, as very typical, but there's also projects, for instance, in culture, restoration, the marine environment and climate, peace, legislation, and so on. So there's a number of topics that where Georgia actually is already a very well-known partner in EU projects. And that could also be a way where you, when you are going to expand your networks, that you actually, and you want to work with the industry, that you actually have already maybe some companies here that are participating in EU projects that you want to involve in your project, if it's relevant for you, or to have as a partner in, or a secondment place for European projects. Okay.
So, as I see, Michael has a question.
Yes, I think it's an old hand.
No, this is the old hand. So.
Okay, good.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'll be back here. So this was 2 examples of how you can actually find access to networks, but there are more. In the funding and tender portal that Sean already presented, here I've highlighted some of the programs that you could be looking into, but for each of the calls, there are actually a section where different partners have submitted expression of interest to participate in the projects in that specific topic. So by scrolling down and looking very carefully to the full text and the full page of the call, you can actually see also who could be relevant partners there. So about finding a network, it's not only about having an academic network, it's also having a network that reaches into the political sphere of the funding system. And I'll come a little bit back to that in the next slide, but also the administrative supportive ones that, for example, the network of the NCPs or the network of IAMA and other associations. So you can have networks in different dimensions, not only academic. And the best way to build relation is, of course, to participate actively and to contribute and be visible in those contexts. And I think Sean said it very nicely to Miriam. So now you participated, next time you participate and give a presentation on your experience on how to work with the challenge of EU funding in Georgia or a new associated country.
I will.
And as we also talked about, this world is, of course, it's a competition about funding, but it's also about trust and trust your partners and trust your network and commit to the network because that is the way that you will get things back from the network. So you have to make an investment, and then the return on investment hopefully will be beneficial for your research, for your institution, or for your country. I already mentioned cost. We are running a little bit out of time, so I'll not go into depth with all of them. But the European Union also have what they call joint research centers, where the EU Commission funds large centers on specific topics, and I think we have.
So please mute yourselves, my dear participants.
I have done it.
Okay.
I have the power. The joint research centers are strategic centers, and in there you can actually find ideas in these the fields that they are covering, not only about what's going on in Europe, but also they usually make foresight plans where you can see what is the new trends, meta trends in science. So you can use these meta trends also to see whether your research is on the right path or meeting right criteria or ideas, and they are also a huge network through newsletters and activities, events, and so on that can be joined. The programs, committees, and NTPs I've already mentioned. In Europe, we have what we call European Technology and Innovation Platforms, and they are collaboration between industry and academia on specific topics. And I think currently there are over 20 technology platforms. And these technology platforms, they develop strategic plans for the next 5 to 7, maybe even 10 years. And they do that by involving stakeholders in the field. So they will actually develop, they will have working groups, they will have events, activities, and meetings where you just by meeting up to those events can actually suddenly become part of formulating what should be the strategic agenda into the future, and create your own network. I have a good colleague, and he was we had a group of research leaders in Brussels, and we went into a meeting with one of those technology platforms. And this colleague, he was asked whether he had opinions on the biotechnology program, and he said, "Oh yes, I have opinions on the biotechnology program." And he was invited then, oh, by the way, couldn't he give feedback to the Commission on this draft, because the platform was invited to give feedback, and they would like to hear what he had of ideas. Actually, so that ended up that he was invited to become part of the whole platform management and leadership, just by accident, and by be willing to look at a document over a weekend and give some feedback and comments. Sorry, the Commission. Okay. Okay, I don't know what's going on here. The Commission have also some European partnerships that they are part of some of the technology platforms, and they have also their own network of projects, of funding, events, meetings, newsletters, and so on. So if you are in a field where these missions fits you, or where the partnerships fits you, you can go in and you can see what's going on and what are the relevant topics being discussed here. And I would have shown you the Formation Project, which is an Erasmus Plus project. Many of these projects that's actually funded by the European Union, they will have web pages with content available that can be used freely for all the public. And the Formation Project has a wonderful web page on how you can actually set up and build your own research support functions within your university. What are the necessary skills and competencies you need, and so on. And the partners in the Formation Project was actually established on the basis of the best prac cost action. So that was just one of the projects coming out of it. Another project that came out of that is a new EU project called RM Roadmap, that's run by EAMA, the European Association for Research Managers and Administrators, that will have a special focus on how can we develop research support capacity in widening countries. And then, as we have already mentioned several times before, sign up as an evaluator. Sign up as an evaluator. Right. I put in this because then you can see that the next EAMA conference will be in April in Prague. And the program is already out there. The registration is open. I would recommend as many as you to participate as possible, and do as Miriam did last year, apply for a scholarship, a funding. There's a lot of bursaries, travel bursaries out there, so apply and participate and expand your network. Okay, so basically many of these things is about jumping into it and make a cold call, jump into a meeting where you don't know anyone. But basically, people want to help, and they want to hear you, and they want to hear your opinion and what makes life difficult for you, because they really want to help. One of the challenges that we have is that sometimes we do not always understand what are the barriers you have. And because we don't understand these barriers, we are actually not able to accommodate them in our practices. So we just continue in our malpractice. So that's why it's not just about waiting for someone to invite you. It's about inviting yourself to the party. And I think that was basically it for the last part of the session here, where we could have a discussion on what are your thoughts. So you have any questions?
So Tengiz, you will be first, and then Temur. Yes, please.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, first of all, to both international experts for sharing such useful information and for your nice presentations. I'm PhD from Agricultural University of Georgia. I'm a chemist. So I have several questions to Mr. Andersen. So first of all, is there a program within the Horizon programs to help our local infrastructure, the lab infrastructure, to be boosted, to improve the local lab infrastructure, I mean equipment? Because the problem is that for Georgian scientists, especially those who are tightly connected to the lab and to the equipment, like me, for example, in chemistry, we are very tightly connected to equipments, and it's quite difficult to perform European level science without proper equipment. So is there any special program to support especially improvement of labs?
They are, but they are very often linked to national co-funding and co-financing. There is a specific program called Research Infrastructure, and I think you can apply for some equipment up to a certain level. But Jonas, you must correct me if I'm wrong. But it's very much linked to national co-funding on larger research infrastructures. So it will be part of a national strategy to facilitate the upgrading of labs. But the programs, I think it's the widening programs. I think both twinning and the area chairs, they have facility or funding also for lab improvement as part of it.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much, because this point is very important. I have experience of being abroad, working as a postdoc in Berlin, in Germany, but unfortunately, upon arrival, I wasn't able to use that experience that I gained there because of the lack of equipment. Because within our local grants, local research, it is impossible to purchase such equipment. Only one machine can cost 50 or 100,000 euros. So this is big obstacle for science here. So I will take into consideration these research opportunities. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Tengiz. Temur, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm also a doctor from the Agricultural University of Georgia. I'm also a chemist. I also want to separately thank the Mr. Andersen, and also separately Mr. McCarthy for brilliant presentations. They were really interesting and useful. And I have a couple of questions regarding the postdoctoral fellows. As I understand, if one wants to apply for this program, one should find a host professor, so-called principal investigator abroad. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, and coordinate the specific topic with him separately.
Yeah.
Okay, and I have also one more question. Are there any family allowance for researchers in case they want to move abroad with their own families?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have a family, like a child or wife or both, you get a fixed amount, a family allowance of 600 euros per month. And then there's what you can call, there's a translation factor, so it depends a little bit. The size of it depends on what country you will be in, how much you get in wages and family allowance. But basically, you will get funding for having your family with you.
Okay.
Yes, and I would like to add here that
Thank
the
you very
local
much
taxation
for your
is also
insight.
something to consider. Like you might get a fixed amount, but based on the taxes in a specific country, like the real actual money you get can be different. So once you get there, probably you'll have to calculate it from country to country.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inquiry.
Thanks a lot. More questions or comments?
I will ask one more question. Is this possible?
Please feel free. For sure, it's possible.
So the question is regarding the postdoctoral fellowship. In case if we apply from Georgia, who will the applicants we be competing with? I mean, who will be our rivals, shall we say? Because it's quite difficult to compete with researchers from Europe, because it's natural that our track record, I mean, for example, publication track record will always be a bit weaker than those of the leading European countries. I have experience of applying to several international scholarships, and my application was rejected. Because of this, is it realistic for Georgian scientists with our real track records?
Yes, so Jonah can correct me here, but the Marie Curie Fellowship Program is open to all. So it's you are competing not only against colleagues from Europe, but from all over the world. So it's a global competition basically, and it is based on excellence. So 50% is based on excellence. Now you are in chemistry. So of course publication matters, but I think it's important to see that there is a tendency or policy in Europe going towards looking more broad at the research assessment, and not only look at publications, but look at other types of experience and know-how. So I think that maybe not tomorrow, but slowly it will change to be a more broad and open and inclusive research assessment system that we are looking into. And I think yes, it is a very competitive grant, but we are all looking for new ideas. So intelligence is equally spread. So if you have a good idea and you can demonstrate that it is a good idea, and you have a PI who really wants you, then you can actually be successful also with a CV in development, so to speak. So nothing. So I think you don't have to. I would not worry so much about that. I know it is a factor, but on the other side, someone has to break the barrier, and those who do it is the ones who will be successful also in the future.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
yes,
great.
That's very great if they consider, of course, this point, and if the main criteria won't be only our background. Yes. Thank you very much for information.
Yeah.
If I may add in here, this is a classical question from the researchers. So you need to keep in mind that especially Marie Curie reactions, you are not evaluated based on your previous achievements or work. And yes, principal investigator, the person you are linked to is your key here. So you can he or she is your advantage in this case. In ERC, for example, your weight as a scientist, your publications and research matter, but in MSc, this is not the criteria. Again, the idea, the excellence of the idea is what is being evaluated. So I would pretty much, like with full confidence, tell you to and encourage you to participate, and don't worry about it if you have a great idea.
Okay. Thank you, Teona. Actually, that's very tricky information. Just please, participants, keep in mind, including me. I mean, it's very necessary information. Thank you. Now, Sopiko, I see your hand. Please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Yes. So I don't have questions, but I introduce myself. First of all, thank you very much for our collaboration. Also, many thanks to Mariam Merabishvili, who is one of the organizers of this training. As you know, I'm Sopiko Piskalauri. I'm working at the Agricultural University of Georgia as a research and development coordinator of 15 research institutes of different profiles and 45 scientific laboratories. I have 10 years of experience at this the university. So I think this training and this meeting is going to very useful for our scientists, our universities, and our countries too. Thank you very much again. It was a very productive and interesting meeting today, and I hope our collaboration will continue. Good luck. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It's a big pleasure. And I think that when I was doing some surveys for this presentation, I actually came across some very interesting projects talking about the European history and culture, and how we actually understand Caucasus and Georgia as a part of Europe. So there's definitely a project on identity, European identity. There's also came across some projects in cultural heritage, where of course the historical sites from the Greek and Roman times and early Georgia also was included in that. There was an art project which mentioning the role of Georgian and Caucasus arts as constituting European art history or understanding of European art. So also I just these 3-4 projects was actually just totally unexpected for me to see that these types of projects actually exist. So I think there are also good opportunities out there for joining activities already going on, and also to find partnerships who's really interested in what is actually going on in Georgia. And it's not only about wine or geology, but it's also about cultural heritage, history, and so on.
Thank you, Jan. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Sopiko. So, my dear participants, if you have any additional comments or questions, please feel free. Otherwise, we are moving a little bit to the wrapping up and just going to the ending. Today's our session. Thanks a lot for your attention and your involving. And here is Michael is written that many thanks for interesting and important presentations and discussions by everyone. So he left us already. Yes, so maybe you want to say some words, Jan, or maybe Sen wants to say something, and let's wrap up and end it up for today.
I think I've said my piece. Thank you for the opportunity of meeting some colleagues in Georgia, and thanks, Jan, for inviting me to participate in this. And all I can finish is the best of luck with your proposals in Horizon Europe is all I will say. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Sean. It was a pleasure. I don't know if it was a question from you, Malka.
No, not a question. I want to thank all the organizers of this meeting and participants. And I hope that in 2023 we shall meet again and continue our discussions. And I hope that in future in Georgia, some connections, more strong connections between industry and researchers and research institutions and universities will be established. Without these very strong relationships, we cannot move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think it was a good ending point. I think I said already in the beginning, I can repeat it here, that I will be back in Georgia in July 2023. I will be both
You are welcome. You are welcome. We shall be very glad to meet you, and you will have opportunity to, of course, taste different kind of Georgian wines.
Thank you, thank you. I'm definitely going to Kvanskara and have some good Kvanskara.
Kvanskara is the best one for you, right?
Yes, I know, but everyone is good, very good wine. So thank you very much. I will, and very many thank you also to you, Mariam, for supporting this in Georgia. It's been a really big asset for this meeting. So thank you, and I hope you all now will have strengthened a little bit your network and your new colleagues, meet new colleagues. I will send if Mariam collects all the names and emails, I will send also the dates when I will be in Tbilisi and Kutaisi in July. And if you are interested, you can reach out to me, and we can set up a meeting or an event, whatever we would like to do.
Yes.
Many
thanks to you. Many thanks to you.
So thanks to participate, my dear participants. Thank you, Jan, and thank you, Sen, once again. And I will not be tired to say thanks to you. I'm really thankful. And I'm really happy that we are just stepping up, and we are trying to do our best. Thanks for your recording, and please keep it and send it to me for the distribution. And we are keeping in touch. I am very much too keen on to our participants, and to myself as well, for sure. So have a nice evening still.
Have a nice evening, you too.